Hey babes, welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, I'm Shantae, and today I wanted to share my story about how I found out I had fibroids. I've shared it in the past in an older video, but I have had an influx of new subscribers, so I wanted to go ahead and talk about that again, maybe even go more in detail because I really don't remember exactly what I said in the last video or how detailed that was. If you are pregnant and you have fibroids, or maybe you just have fibroids, or maybe you are trying to get pregnant with fibroids, I hope this video is going to be helpful for you and help you to, I guess, just get a little bit more insight. And I wanted to just kind of share part of my story and where I came from, because some of you have asked in the comments. Kind of want to create an arc for you so you can understand, I guess, how I got here and my fibroid journey. So before I even found out that I had fibroids, I'm gonna take you back a little. I actually was having so much pain. When I tell you my cramps were so bad, at that time I had to work in an office, and fortunately we had a flexible start time, so I just needed to be at work around 9 a.m., and it wouldn't be a big deal. On days that I had my period, I would have to wake up extra early. I would be in so much pain. I would get up, go take a shower, get back in bed, balled up in the fetal position, then get back up again, go brush my teeth, get back in bed, balled up in the fetal position. I couldn't even get through my full morning routine without laying down every other task, because I just the pain was so excruciating. I'm gonna try not to be too graphic here, especially because I can't say everything here on YouTube, but I had such heavy bleeding that I would probably change my pad, or sometimes I would double up. Sometimes I would have to wear a tampon and a heavy, sometimes overnight pad during the day. So I would be not only in excruciating pain, but then on top of that, I'm just bleeding to death almost. It was horrific at first, to be honest, because I've always had painful periods and pretty heavy bleeding most of my life. I didn't really think much of it, but it just got worse and worse. And so then I started to be okay, maybe something is actually wrong. Maybe I do need to figure out what's going on here. I did make a doctor's appointment with my gynecologist. And at this time, also, I was you know what? I should probably get back on birth control too, because I had been on birth control for some years prior, but then I had been off for a few years. And I was well, maybe I should just get back on birth control too. And I need to go see what's going on with me, because sometimes I would have so much pain and pressure. I'm trying to figure out how to say this here on YouTube in a more censored way. I would feel like my undercarriage was about to fall out. The pain and the pressure was that bad. I just remember being okay, I'm gonna go to the doctor, I'm gonna make a gynecologist appointment. So I called, I set up my gynecologist appointment, but y'all know what happened. Life happened and I canceled. Then I made another appointment and I canceled. So this went on probably 3 times. And then, yeah, I ended up missing my period. I would say the time span between me making these appointments and canceling was somewhere between 6 months to a year. Now, mind you, I was supposed to get back on birth control around this time. That was another one of my reasonings for going to the doctors, because I'm like, I need to get back on birth control too. So I ended up finding out that I was pregnant, which was shocking to me. But also, let me rewind a little bit. Also, during this time, I would actually have better periods. I wouldn't have terrible periods every single month, like as far as the cramping. Now, the bleeding was always heavy, but the cramping wouldn't always be bad. During this time, I also was trying to lose weight, and I had gone on this diet. I was like eating fewer calories, eating fewer carbs, no dairy and stuff like that. And I also noticed that during this time, as far as the cramps and the pain, it actually started to get better. Come back to me missing my period, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. So my son was really not planned, like we weren't trying to have him. So that was like a big surprise for me. So I go to my 12 week, because I think at that time, I don't know if it's still the same now, but they wouldn't see me until I think it was 12 weeks or something. So I go to the doctor. They, do an ultrasound to confirm the pregnancy. I think they did a pregnancy test, and then they do an ultrasound. And when the doctor does the ultrasound, she's like, did you know you have fibroids? And I'm like, no, nobody's ever told me that. Because at that time, I really didn't know much about fibroids. I didn't even know that the only way to really confirm them is if you go get an ultrasound. So that was my first time knowing that I had fibroids. Now, I know most people would probably be afraid, but at that time, because I just didn't really know anything about fibroids, the only thing that I knew about fibroids was probably that episode of Girlfriends. I think it was a couple episodes where Maya found out she had fibroids. That was probably the only, my only real knowledge of having fibroids, even though I would later find out that a lot of women in my family had them. Nobody talked about it. So again, I just didn't have enough knowledge to know like the symptoms to be looking for. Even before I got pregnant, I just didn't know. I wasn't really scared because I just didn't know that I probably should have had some level of fear. But also the doctor, my OB at the time, she didn't seem that alarmed by it. So I wasn't that alarmed by it. But I remember her saying at that time, yeah, you have a lot of small fibroids, and you have one that's the size of a large grapefruit. Again, I didn't know what that means. Like, I didn't know that your uterus is actually pretty small, like the size of a lemon. So having something that large in your uterus in addition to a baby, it's kind of a big deal. And maybe at the time, like, she just wasn't trying to scare me. I think that could have been it too. She didn't want to scare me. And I can appreciate that too. She did, however, refer me to another high-risk OB, and I ended up seeing her as well throughout my pregnancy, and she confirmed that I had lots and lots of small fibroids, some about the size I have now. I still have a couple of the small ones. At that time, the large one I had was about 11 centimeters. Now, all throughout my pregnancy, not many people really said anything about complications that could occur. And when I look back, I do feel like they should have said something. Fortunately, I didn't have any real complications as far as my pregnancy was concerned. The only big thing that I was dealing with at the time was very low iron, and I was just tired all the time. I know you're supposed to be tired during pregnancy, but I was going to sleep. Like, I would go to work and then I would go to sleep at like 5 p.m. every day because I was just so tired, and it was likely because my iron was very low. It took me until my last trimester to get my iron levels where they needed to be. I tried so many different supplements. I tried drinking orange juice, all that stuff. Nothing was working. The only supplement that actually worked for me was that Garden of Life iron supplement, and I've recommended that several times on this channel. And that's just because I've tried several supplements. I've tried several really inexpensive ones. I haven't tried too many very expensive ones, but I've tried some really inexpensive ones. And that Garden of Life one was the only one that actually worked and actually helped me get my iron up without any side effects. So that's why I always recommend that one, because I know for a fact that it works. It worked for me. So sometimes I get people in my DMs and they're like, I want to get pregnant, but I have these fibroids. Is it possible? And for me, it was. Some of the reason that I think that it was possible for me is because of the placement of the large fibroids that I do have, or the large one, well, at that time, the large one that I did have, it's actually on the front of my uterus. As far as imaging can tell, the fibroids that I have had or have are mostly on the outside of my uterus. And so that's why I think it was possible for me to get pregnant and carry to term with no complications, is because of that. To be honest, it's just really hard to know. And also, even with the imaging, it's hard to know where your fibroids are located because sometimes they can't really tell for sure. So that's something to consider if you are trying to get pregnant and if you're considering having one of the fibroid procedures. And I will link another video I have. I go a little bit more into detail about determining whether you want to have surgery or not. I want to say it's the pros and cons of healing fibroids naturally. I'll drop that link here in the description so that you can watch that video if you are trying to conceive and you have fibroids. That would be a good video for you to watch. This video is kind of getting a little longer than I wanted to, but I am going to do another video and I will talk about postpartum and what that was like for me with the fibroids, because I don't want to make this one too long. So I'll just do a whole nother video about what happened after I had my son. And again, be sure to like this video, subscribe, because I think my next couple of videos are actually going to be mostly about my journey up until this point, because I want to give you guys an update. And so I want to make sure that I kind of document the whole story before I give that update so that you guys can have some context for my update. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.